The sad answer is, no, they wouldn't. They do not have a vested interest in putting themselves out of work. Corrections is not about corrections. Corrections is about job security. And that's the nature of the beast. In Massachusetts, it's pretty much, it reflects across the country the same, but in Massachusetts, I know the stats, 97% of the people in prison are coming to the street. The real question is, how do you want them back in your community? Better than they went in or worse? The fact of the matter is, they're coming back worse.
Yeah.
And as the mayor, they're coming back to your community. How do you reintroduce them to your community?
Well, it's the same way as dealing with juveniles that are coming into the system for the first time. Is if someone's being released into the community, you should try to assess, well, what do you want to do? And do we have an organization that we can hook you up with right away that can help you in this transition? Because if we just say, oh, well, you should do better now,
yeah, that's all.
And leave them on the street.
Popcorn and phrases.
Yeah, they're just going to recidivate. So we have to try to identify them. We have to try to hook them up with programs, with job training, with community-based organizations. And I do say it is community-based organizations because particularly local government can't bear the burden financially of running entire programs. I mean, we could run small-scale programs, but to address the broader problem, if we were going to run a government-side program, it would require state, federal help, et cetera. A local community can't handle, the burden of running an entire government-run program, but we don't have to.
Okay, but you need the support of the state.
Yep.
You're catching the byproduct of these reform schools and state prisons.
Yep.
Whether you like it or not, whether you got the resources or not, the monster is in your lap.
Right. So you have to use what you've got. And what we have in New London, our greatest asset in New London that doesn't get talked about a lot, is that we have a tremendous community. I think New London has a very bad reputation outside of New London. But anyone who actually lives in New London, who's involved in the community in New London, knows that we have a lot of good people in New London running a lot of good programs. The problem is that they're all off on their own. They're uncoordinated, they're unsupported, a lot of them aren't even known, we don't even know they're there, but that's our asset. Do we have a limitless tax base? No, we're a tiny city and we have high tax rates to begin with. We get 55% of our budget from the state. And we have to do a lot on the essential city service side that we have to control, that we do control, like fixing up our schools and putting out bonds to fix up facilities and so on. That's what we can do with our direct money. But what we can do with our community is mobilize a community movement, a community response to these other issues that we face, these social problems that we face. And while the mayor can't sign an ordinance or dole out a ton of money to do it, the mayor can provide that centralized coordinator to bring attention to the community programs that already exist and to the individuals that already exist, get them working in concert, and that community movement can fill a lot of the holes. Can it solve the whole problem?
No.
No, of course not. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do everything we can. One of the things that frustrates me is that more often than not, particularly New London, particularly amongst some of the old political crowd in New London, there's this attitude that, well, we just have these problems and that's the way it is. And it's always been this way, it can't change. Well, absolutely yes, it can. We have plenty of people who are willing to be part of the solution, who are trying now to do all they can. Let's give them some leadership, let's give them some support, and let's do the most we can. If we can reduce recidivism 10%, do it. We hope it's 80%, we hope it's 100%, but if it's 2%, do it. Do the best you can, because that will at least bring our city to an optimum level of public safety. And it was never going to be 100%. If you live in a city, I don't care if it's Boston, I don't care if it's Providence, I don't care if it's New York, London, all these cities I've lived in, there's going to be some element of crime, there's going to be some risk, there's going to be some frictions between diverse communities in your city. It's a part of city life. But we can certainly get those rates and get those numbers to a maximum efficient level.
Well, let me ask you this. The monies that come in to fix parts of the city, cannot some of that be directed to the citizens of New London to do the work?
Yes, I think that that's a very good idea. I also think one of the things I've put in for in my proposal is to create a position within city government of a permanent grants coordinator. We don't have one. When we do grant writing, it's all piecemeal. Different people do it at different times, different organizations, nonprofits in the city do it all on their own. We need someone whose full-time job, all day, every day, is to professionally write grants for the city. Not just to government agencies, but seeking corporate input, seeking nonprofits, seek every dollar, every program that we can find to come into New London. Because, as I say, we have a limited tax base. We have a limited budget. So we need to be looking for resources anywhere we can. And a lot of times when those grants come in, the grant can be directly directed to a community-based program that involves people from the community, where it's not just we're going to get a government grant, it's going to go into the government bureaucracy and get eaten up in overtime pay or in new chairs for some office, or, you know, the way government usually, you know, makes money disappear down some hole. We need to get that money where it belongs. So part of it is having a coordinated effort to get the money, and the secondary part of it is managing it well to make sure the money gets where it needs to go, that it's not eaten up in administrative bureaucracy, that it's not held up by bureaucratic red tape, but that we get it to the community and get it to the people and get these programs going as soon as we possibly can.
You got my vote.
Uh-oh. Was that, now, let me ask you, is that endorsement going to help or hurt? What do you think?
Well, every vote counts.
That's right, that's right. I like it.
We look at the positive side of it. So I don't know, what else can we go to? We got a lot of time left. What would you like to discuss?
Well, we're happy to discuss more on social justice and criminal justice, something that you're, you know, very familiar with, and some of the attitudes in New London and how that needs to change. I mean, what do you think, as someone who's been in, you know, prison for multiple times, as someone, if you were coming out and you were coming to New London, from your experience, what would be the first things that you would need help with, that you would want the city to address?
Okay. That's a loaded question, and going directly to it and trying to answer would be dishonest, because you really can't do that. I'm 69 years old. I have spent over 2/3 of my life in some form of confinement, from reform schools to state prisons. Every time I hit the street, if it showed a sign of life, I put a pistol on it and robbed it. I entered prison with a 7th grade education, which was probably closer to a 5th grade education. I got a GED in the prison. I got a bachelor's degree, majored in sociology from Curry College. When I came out to the street, I went to Bunker Hill Community College and became a certified paralegal. The whole thing that turned me around was the education. When I went into the prison system, my heroes were the criminals. I took pride in being able to crack safes and circumvent burglar alarms. I took pride in being a thief, because that's how I was brought up. When I went into reform school, I learned how to steal a car. I learned all the gears and shifts. When I got out of reform school, I demolished a bunch of cars, banging on them, going up the street, right? I took pride in that world. Heroes of mine were like the mafia and gangsters in the movies. I identified with them. Basically because my worldview was this big. What did the turnaround for me is when I get involved in the college programs, my worldview expanded. Right. I never looked at the victim. To me, I always looked at it and rationalized it that when I did something, the insurance company would take care of it. They're going to, you know, they're going to double what the insurance cost should be, so they're going to make out. That was the rationale that I used to justify the behavior. I never saw in my mind's eye that when I stole your car and crashed it up, you couldn't go to work. You couldn't make money to feed your kids and pay your bills. I didn't see that. I wasn't able to see that because that was the worldview that I came out of. When I studied the college stuff, I got to turn around and look at that stuff, and now inside the prison, like the mafia guys, I said, you know, like, these are parasites. These aren't honorable men. These are dirtbags.
Leeches.
Yeah, you know, and I started seeing that, all right, and that's what helped turn me around. Now, I got out and I overturned my case. I got out in 2003. I've been out now over 7 years, have not been suspected of committing a crime, let alone committing one. What was the difference? I had the experience and knowledge from the college programming when I come into the street. That alone wasn't enough. When I got into the street, unfortunately, my family died all around me while I was in jail. I did 40 years. My brother and sister-in-law took me in, and I lived with them for 3 years before I got senior housing and stuff. But when I come out to court and overturned the case, I had on scrubs that said Walpole State Prison on the back. It was November the 19th, 5:30. It is cold and it's dark. No money, no clothes other than prison garb, and if they weren't there to pick me up, I would have went out into the streets of Boston dressed like that. What would my chances have been, even with the college programming? I would have had to go to people that didn't want to get near, that would have led me back down a street I didn't want to go. Support is key and essential. My brother and sister-in-law gave me a place to live, gave me a safe haven. What a lot of people don't understand, and this is what's so important about the reentry concepts, which we're going to be getting into in another program. When I came out, my brother brought me to a CVS because I needed shaving stuff and all this whatnot. In the prison, there's one toothbrush, a white toothbrush, medium, hard, and soft bristle. We get into the CVS, there's 2 shelves, 10 feet long, of toothbrushes. I mean, they're every shape, size, and color, and some of them look like you could mine gold with them. I could not pick a toothbrush out. Couldn't do it. And I told my sister-in-law, I said, Lo, I can't do this. I said, just grab me a medium bristle. So she looked, she said, oh, Bobby, these are mediums over here. And all that was a shorter version of the rest of it. It was the same thing. All these different shapes and sizes. I mean, you just had no clue as to how to use these damn things. Then we went to Walmart to buy pants. And they have these boxes, right, 3 by 3 feet. And they're like 3 or 4 feet across. And then they go down 100 yards, about 100 feet. And my brother says, go ahead, pick out overalls. I'm wearing scrubs for the last 20 years. I couldn't pick out overalls. And that helplessness, right, is unbelievable. Now, I had escaped on 3 occasions. And when I was on escape, I was armed. And in the subway system, when the door opened up and everybody poured out, I had a gun. So it had no real effect on me. When I come out and I'm legitimate, I got no gun. When that door opened up and then people piled out, instant panic attack. I wasn't used to people coming around me. Yeah. Walking down the street, a group of people would walk into the store. Guess what? I went in there with them. I had no intentions of going in there. It was follow the crowd, yeah. They just pulled me into there. Yeah. A wallet, I couldn't pick out a wallet. I just grabbed a wallet, paid $12, whether it would work or not, I just grabbed it. In town Boston, the combat zone, I mean, I spent many, many years in the combat zone. Washington Street, Essex Street, and Boylston Street. Yep, know exactly where you are. I'm standing there, and I don't, I know where I'm at, but I don't recognize it. Because it's changed so much. All 4 corners are different. They're gone.